Well, I'll start the recording right now and I'll ask Mike Drak to join us with his audio and video. And welcome all of you who are just signing in to our webinar right now. I'm Anthony Quinn, the Chief Operating Officer at the Canadian Association of Retired Persons. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day today to join us. And I think we'll all learn a lot about the path and the blueprint for successful retirement. As you are logging in, I'm asking that everyone take a moment to go into the chat box, both as a test as to where you can ask your questions of our guest, and also let us know where in the country you are looking in from. I'm always delighted to see just how far and wide our membership is across the country. Okay, so it's my pleasure to welcome Mike Drak as the speaker for our webinar, the presenter for our webinar here today. We are sponsored and presented today by our partners, Home Equity Bank, the providers of the CHIP reverse mortgage, and we thank them very much for helping us to connect with Mike. By way of introduction, Mike is the author of 3 best-selling retirement books: Victory Lap Retirement, Retirement Heaven and Hell, and Longevity Lifestyle by Design. I happened to run into Mike at a Zoomer show about 5 years ago, and he was letting all of the vendors at the Zoomer show know about his rebel attitude towards being a retiree or a baby boomer or a Zoomer, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that from Mike. He's also a contributor on opinions and expertise on retirement and provides speaker series and workshops on these types of topics we'll be talking about today. And I don't want to steal your thunder, Mike, but please tell us about celebrating your birthday by attempting an Ironman in August of this year. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here. I have to laugh about that Ironman thing. I don't know where that
Well,
came from,
are
but I'm committed.
are we still on track for
Oh,
August?
we're on track. I'm doing the 2-day ride for cancer, to conquer cancer tomorrow for training. And yeah, August 30th is D-Day, and it's less than 60 days now. So it's going to be interesting anyways.
Well, that's exciting. We're looking forward to hearing more about that. Now, Mike has prepared a series of slides to share with us, and I thought, Mike, rather than having just the presentation, we could have a bit of a conversation about those topics that come up in your deck, and also invite our panelists, our guests, to ask questions of you in the chat box. And I have 2 colleagues, Siobhan and Janine, who are monitoring the chat, who can alert us to some of the trends and the questions, and I'll be monitoring them myself. So,
Great.
Mike, with that, over to you. And we have Isabella, who's helping us out with the audio video presentation.
Hey, Isabella, if we can go to the first slide. And we're just going to quickly look at this commercial that was really well done by the Canadian Heart and Stroke Foundation. Very meaningful, very impactful, and it really is kind of scary when you look at it. If you can go ahead, Isabella.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future at makehealthlast.ca.
Great. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's break that down because it's very important. As they said, on average, Canadians would spend the last 10 years of their life in sickness. And in the US, it's even worse. I think the sick gap is around 12 years. And it's something that doesn't have to happen. And what we're dealing with is two issues here. We're dealing with lifespan, how long you're going to live, and the health span, how long you're going to be healthy for, right? And so the gap between the two, which I call sick span, is significant at 10 years, but it doesn't have to be that way. If we focus at moving our best before date as far back as possible to meet with our lifespan, the best case scenario that you would want to do is go out and celebrate your 100th birthday, maybe play a game of golf and then go home and have dinner with your family and friends and go to bed that night and not wake up. That would be the best case scenario. And that's what we're trying to work towards, is focusing on that six span and narrowing the gap and living as long as possible, healthy and happy.
And Mike,
Next slide. Oh, sorry.
the uh, the Heart and Stroke Foundation who put that commercial together, I think they were making the case that those the two choices of that gentleman in the video, they weren't inevitable. So
No,
you're going to talk about the ways we can live our lives on the left side of the screen rather than on the right hand of that screen.
that's right. And basically, the truth is 80% of our healthy longevity is dictated by our chosen lifestyle. And that's the point we're trying to make, is if you make the right choices and do the right things, you're not going to spend those last 10 years in that unhealthy state. And it's so important to understand how the things play together. But it's your choices you make today is going to impact your future. One thing I always focus on is my future self. And my future self is that person I'm going to be in 10 years. So I'm 70 now. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to be doing when I turn 80 and what type of health I'm going to be in and what kind of lifestyle do I want to enjoy. Because when I turn 80, I don't want to just shut it down. I want to keep, traveling and riding my bike and going fishing and doing all these fun things. But to get there, I have to take care of myself. And so it's those daily decisions, those daily lifestyle decisions and actions that you take that are going to dictate what your 80-year-old self is going to look like. And, I'm amazed by, like, I'm seeing people all the time. I'm looking at people in their 80s and 90s, and I look at them, I go, wow, it's just amazing how active and vital they are and all the interesting things they're doing. And I'm saying to myself, well, geez, they're great role models. I want to be just like them when I get there. And so that's something I'm focused on all the time. I'm thinking about it, and it helps make the lifestyle decisions that much better because I know they're going to impact me down the road. Next one, please. Okay, longevity principles. Now we're going to get into my book, Retirement Heaven or Hell. In the book, I called them retirement principles because when I wrote the book, I was retired, right? But really, they're longevity principles. And these are the things I know I need to do in order to live a long, healthy life. And I first got the idea when I was doing research for the book. I read this wonderful book called Younger Next Year, written by Chris Crowley and Henry Lodge. And I read the book and I got so excited because the book said, look we don't have to just be on this decline path and get older and act older every year. As a matter of fact, what we could do through exercise and proper nutrition is we can get younger every year for a period of time. And then we can maintain that level of health for a long, long time into, far into our later years. And again, it's pushing that best before date is as far back as possible. So I got excited about that because I said, you know what? I don't have to put up with high blood pressure. I can fix it. I don't have to put up with high cholesterol. I can fix that too. And I can get stronger and I can get more energy and all these things if I'm willing to put the work in. So I was excited. I went and I contacted Chris Crowley, one of the authors, And he's an amazing person. He's 90 years old right now. He follows the principles in the book. And, at age 90, he's still skiing, he rides a bike, he rows a boat on a lake, and he's still writing. He just wrote a new novel. And so I look at these people and I go, okay, there's proof there. Obviously it works, right? And again, Chris is a role model for me. And, I keep saying, I want to be like him when I turn 90 because he's enjoying a great life.
But
And Chris,
Mike, are those great examples? Are they outliers? Is this something that's actually achievable by us regular folks who are, dealing with joint pain and have existing conditions? Are we talking something that's just for that unique character, or is this something that applies to everybody?
yes, it applies to everyone because Chris, when just before he started to write the book, it's funny because we wrote the book the same reasons, really. He was totally out of shape. He was taking all kind of medications for his health. And his doctor basically said, look it, buddy, you better turn this around. You're not going to be here that much longer. And that's when he decided to change things. And he changed his lifestyle. And he started following these longevity principles. And look at the guy, like I said, at 90, skiing, riding the bikes, having a great time. Same thing with me. I was a beast couch potato not that long ago. And I decided to train for an Ironman for 5 months. And since I started doing it, my health's really improved. My blood pressure is way down. My cholesterol's in good shape right now. I've lost, I think, about 30 pounds so far. I'm going to try to lose another 20. And I'm going to do an Ironman. And I think I can get it done. But when you see where I was, it's just amazing. So it just blows my mind, right? Yes, we can do it. We can get there, but you have to believe in it and you have to actually do the work. You've got to get to the gym and do all these other things, right? So next one, please. So here's one of the principles, and it's about getting regular physical activity. It's the old use it or lose it principle. If you don't work out, you don't exercise, you don't do weight training, well, guess what? You're going to lose muscles, right? And you're going to lose energy. And if you look at the picture on the left-hand side, at the top slide is the MRI of a calf muscle of a 40-year-old active man. And it looks, very healthy. And then if you look at the middle picture, that's from a 74-year-old couch potato. And all of a sudden you can see the muscle loss, you can see all the fat deposits in there, and it's pretty ugly. It's pretty sad, really. And then at the bottom is the 70-year-old active man's MRI. And that's my same age. Well, guess what? I don't want to look like the guy in the middle. I'm looking at the guy at the bottom. And the guy at the bottom just looks almost as good as the 40-year-old picture. So that's the proof right there. If we start following these principles and we do the work and we exercise and we understand, the mind body connection that, physically, if we're not in good shape, well, it's going to affect us mentally. And the reverse is true too. If we're having mental health issues, stress is getting to us and whatnot, it's going to affect us physically. Understand that the two work in tandem and take actions that will improve both, and life is going to get pretty good for you.
Now, the whole goal of our presentation here today, Mike, is the motivation, but getting people out of that sedentary lifestyle. They retire, they had a 9 to 5, they had priorities, they had demands on their time. And when the demands on your time stop, that often leads to that sedentary lifestyle when people are not doing the things that they know they should be doing. So what's the motivation to beyond our doctor telling us to do better? What's the motivation to get up and do these things?
Well, Anthony, I'll tell you, there's a couple of motivators here. First one was the video we saw, and that's very impactful. But if you really want to scare yourself, go visit any nursing home that's around and just walk in there and see the people and look at the quality of life. And you say, you know what? It doesn't have to be like this. Sure, we're all going to decline, but we can push back that rate of decline and we can enjoy, a great life for a long time. But again, it's not just good enough to buy a book on what you need to do. You actually have to take action. And if you want to see the results in process, just you can go to a gym now, you can go to a swimming pool or a community center and see these people. Like, it's wonderful to see a lot of boomers. They're working out, they're doing the weights, they're on the treadmills, they're playing pickleball, right? They're in spinning classes, they're in the pool doing workouts. Those are going to be the winners. And the losers are going to be the ones that say, you know what, yeah, it's nice, but I don't think I'll do it. And it's going to cost them large. So to me, that's the big motivator. I want to hang around. I want to be there for my kids when they get married. I want to be there for my grandkids. I want to be able to travel in my 80s and 90s. I want to do these things that I enjoy, like working and writing new books and things like that. I want to do that for as long as I can because it improves my quality of life. And that's where the fun is. And when I can't do those things, I'm not going to be very happy. So that's the key for me. And that's what I think about when I think about my future self. How do I want that person to be? What do I want them capable of doing? And I want them to be able to do it.
And when we're in our 20s and 30s and even our 40s, when you think about your future self, it seems so far in the distance. But when we're talking to our audience of CARP members now, the future self is really a very short-term window for that next 10, 15 years that we're talking about.
Well, yeah, and that's you can see it because it's that much closer, and you can see what's happening to your friends too. Some are very, very good, and some are in poor health, right? You can say, you know what, it's within my control. I have to start working at this. But I'm really getting excited because we're seeing a lot of kids in the gyms now. They're getting a message to say that this is a long-term commitment, right? And they're starting to work at it now to reduce stress in their lives and things like that. And it's working. So, I'm seeing this mix. It's beautiful of young people and old people in the gym, and they're helping each other and they're encouraging each other. And it's really nice to see. But yeah, they get it. Both sides are starting to get it. But you're right. A lot of people, when they retire, they think, oh, it's time to take it easy. I can relax and just sit back. And that's when, decline sets in. And it's hard to change it when you're on that downward slope, but you have to. You
The
have to.
the tagline that our boss Moses Neimer always says is the best way to keep going is to keep going.
That's right.
That's
For
it.
sure. Once you stop moving, you're not going to
Yeah.
move anymore. It's hard to
Right.
restart. So keep going. Yeah, I like that. Next one, Isabel. The importance of eating nutritious food. It's key here. It's like, just think about you like you're a car and you're putting fuel into the car. You want to make sure you put quality fuel in there because that you only get one car. It's got to last you the rest of your life. And you only get one brain too. You got to take care of that and make sure you feed it with proper nutrients, right? Because if you throw in, cheap gas, watered down gas, wow, that car is not going to run very long, right? And so, that's why we say stay away from the fast foods. Don't over consume alcohol and things like that. And, we go into it in detail. But, it's so important that you got to watch the fuel you're putting in there. And I'll tell you right now, if you want to lose weight, it's not about going to the gym, lifting weights and doing cardio. It's about watching what you consume and taking as fuel, right? That's the important message there. Next one. Another one, this is key, is get quality sleep. When you think about it, at night, when you go to bed, that's when the body repairs itself. That's when the stress levels go down, right? And if you don't get quality sleep, it affects like your immunity and things like that. And when your immunity starts breaking down, that's when bad things happen. And it opens the door for disease like cancers and things like that. So it's very important to establish good sleep habits and follow them and make sure you get your 8 hours of sleep at night. And there's things to learn about it, like don't be drinking, water 5 minutes before you go to bed, or you're going to wake up a couple of times at night. It's just simple stuff, but it's so important. Next one, please.
Mike, just before we move on, a question just popped up, and I think I had the same question. What are inflammatory foods? Just on the nutrition side, the
Inflammatory foods are ones that cause swelling and whatnot in your body because it's fighting this thing. So if I'm eating mortadella, that's an inflammatory food. My body's going to say, hey, it tastes really good, but it's throwing my body off. and it's causing inflammation in my body. Same thing with alcohol causes inflammation too. And your body, wears down over time, fighting this inflammatory condition. So it's not good to long-term health. So, it's very important to look at what you eat and the quality of what you eat. Or, yeah, these things, you're going to have bad problems there.
And on the sleep notion of sleep, they go hand in hand with, getting out and moving. So if you have a
That's right.
full day of exercise or activity and you've done your 10,000 steps or whatever the number is, and you've had that full day, you're more inclined to get that quality sleep because you've had a day that took up your energy and now you're looking to recover.
That's right. But you should be able to sleep like a baby after an active day. And that's why, that's the best sleep of all. It's very restful. Next. Live a low stress life. This is so important because, we have so much stress coming our ways. And, I laugh about it because I did this cartoon book about, you know, protecting my brain from negative vibes coming in. And, that's negative news from the TV and social media and the newspapers. And, I'm trying to, it seems all the news we get is bad news these days, and the tariffs and all that. So I'm trying to cut down on it. So I'm cutting down on TV, social media. And as a matter of fact, I went to Europe and I didn't even take my iPhone with me. I left it at home so I wouldn't get messages and all that. But I ran into a problem because I found out, well, how do you take pictures? How do you tell what time it is? And how do you find out, how to get to a place without these iPhones? So I learned that part, but I did cancel the newspapers. I don't get a newspaper anymore because I want to really cut off that source of stress in bad news. I don't want to see it. It tires me out. And what I do is to relax, is I spend a lot of time in nature. In Japan, it's really interesting. Doctors will prescribe to their patients, one suffering from high stress or anxiety. Um, they call it forest bathing. You walk in the forest and just being around the trees and water, it calms them down. So yeah, nature has a very positive effect on us.
Now
And it,
there's different kinds of stress in our lives, Mike, and some
but
can't be avoided. But I would find it stressful, I think, to plan to do an Ironman. So that's one kind of stress. But
that's right.
you're talking about inputs into our lives that may not be conducive to doing the other things that we're talking about with your 9 tips. The the idea of turning on the 24-hour news stations and just digesting that all day, that certainly can have a negative effect. But we're not asking or recommending that folks tune out from the world, but there has to be a balance, I guess.
A balance and a filter. You need a
Yeah.
filter. And the same thing goes for toxic people. You don't want to hang around toxic people because they're going to drag you down with them, right? So you have to be very careful who you hang out with. And really, you just want to hang around happy people because the happiness will rub off on you, right? And you can't get so uptight about things you can't control. And a great stress reliever too is going to the gym and working out, lifting some weights and whatnot. That will bring the anxiety down, the depression down, things like that. So it's one of the best ways to reduce stress in your life. And the importance of maintaining a positive attitude. It's so important because we know people with positive attitudes live up to 7 years longer than people with a negative attitude.
And there's a couple
So
of slides coming up that sort of will show us some of those ways to maintain a positive attitude.
yeah, next one. So again, here's the focus on mental health because, like I said, the two go hand in hand, physical and mental health. And again, dealing with stress and our health is very important. We want to keep the two in balance, low stress, high health. And many ways of doing it is you practice mindfulness. Many people do this, like, they'll do meditation or yoga, and that calms them down. And also, it's important, again, use it or lose it. The mind's just like muscle. So if you don't use it, it's going to go away. So you need to play these brain games and be creative, be curious, learn about new things. And it will keep that mind, stretching and being occupied and active, and it lasts you, many, many years, right? Next
Mike,
one, please.
Mike, there's been a lot of news coverage on the mental health problems that the youth are dealing with, but
Oh, yes.
we have CARP have also made note that the decline in the mental health of older adults, of seniors, has also gone hand in hand with societal changes. And I think we'll talk about those disconnections, but the fact that the kids are on their screens 24/7 and not making the kind of connections that we made in our youth, that they're finding higher levels of mental health issues and disorders. Do you think it's also happening in our generations as well?
Oh, yeah, because there's this theory called the happiness U curve. You're the happiest when you're young, and you get happy again when you get older. Well, both sides are breaking down. And they're in shock that that is happening, and they're trying to figure it out, right? And for the young people, like you say, they have security issues, they can't get jobs, they have they're addicted to technology, and there's all these bad things happening there. And then at the other range, you have people suffering from loneliness, isolation, financial insecurity, and yeah, it's hard to sleep like at night like that. So yeah, that theory is kind of really being tested and is starting to fall apart, which is a sad thing. And that's one of the things we work on, is trying to restore that and make sure that we can lower these stress levels so people can enjoy a good life. But yeah, it's something to be cognizant of. Next one. Build strong relationships. So see, this is something that's so important, and a lot of people don't realize it, right? This is a major longevity drive, and there's been so many studies done on it. One of the most famous one is the Harvard study of development, and we know from that study that people that have strong relationships, quality relationships, will live longer and be healthier and happier than other people. And it's so simple. And so we think about that and say, okay, it's so important to maintain strong friendships throughout your life. But what happens is, many times when people retire, especially men, they lose all their friends because their friends were work friends, and they have a hard time getting them back. Another issue I had, and this is a personal issue with my mother, when my father passed away at age 72 from pancreatic cancer, someone, they probably did it, they thought that it would help. They told her she should immediately sell her house and move into a high-rise condo. And when she told me she was going to do that, I said, Mom, we have to think this through. I don't think it's a very good idea. And, we talked about it, and her concern was, I'm not going to have enough money. I can't pay to have my lawn cut and the snow shoveled and all that. And I said, Ma, look, you got all kinds of money. You got a home that's free and clear. All we have to do is tap into the equity of it, and you're good. You're good for the rest of your life. And she thought about that, and she said, you know what, that kind of makes sense, because I really don't want to go in that high-rise condo, because she would leave the community she knows and loves behind. She would leave all her friends behind. And these relationships are so important, because these are the people that keep you going. And can you imagine being in a high-rise condo, isolated by yourself, not knowing anyone, not being in a community that you knew and loved, not being able to go out and tend your garden and sit on your deck and have a coffee with friends at the end of the day? That's the thing that kept my mother alive for many, many happy years. I'll never forget that lesson. Yet some people think, oh no, we have to do this. We have to move. No, you don't. But you got to figure things out so they work for you.
Yeah, I think the big thing, Mike, is the change, right? It's not necessarily where, because there are people right now who are living in high rises and they have a community that they've established over the years, depending on where you live. But it's the change that really is the difference, particularly at that, later quarter of life, where you have all these things forced upon you oftentimes unexpectedly. And if
Yep.
you haven't planned ahead and made the plan for either remaining in your own home or downsizing, if that's what you want to do, it's planning and not being forced into situations where you're making decisions when acute problems happen, and then you're either taking a larger financial hit because you're making last minute decisions, or you find yourself in places you'd rather not be because you didn't plan ahead.
Yeah, and it's so important to not be reactive. Is, sit down and think things through logically and get maybe some input from other people. But my concern is if you're a person that has a hard time making friends, and all of a sudden you're pulled out of your community and you're isolated in a condo somewhere where you know nobody, and you're not going to interact among others because it's not your thing, you're going to be in trouble. I'll tell you right now, if the TV is your best friend, you're going to be in big trouble. And that's the way it works out for a lot of people. It's sad to see, but it's true. Next one, please. Protect your hearing. This one drives me crazy all the time. Because again, the example is my mother. Yeah. I would give speeches and she would come and listen. And I would talk to her at the end and say, what part did you like? And she would just go and smile at me because she didn't hear a word I was saying. And she could buy a hearing aid, but she wouldn't do it because she thought it made her look old, something, right? And yet she was willing to not be able to hear people speak, but she didn't want to wear that because it just didn't look right for her. And there's so many people like this. I know Tina, my friend, she's 95. Same thing. She has the money to do it. She won't buy it. And she misses out on all these conversations. We'll have a party and whatnot. She can't hear 80% of what's said. And when you can't hear, that increases the risk for dementia, right? It also promotes self-isolation because although you're sitting in a room with people, you can't hear anyone talk. So you kind of withdraw and you kind of sit there and your mind's not working because it kind of shuts down. And, that leads to bad things. So, I don't understand it. I'm thinking of going for a test myself this fall because my wife says I don't hear what things that she says. But
But
it's
that's a
important.
selective hearing, Mike. That's not
I
the
hope you're
audio
right.
process. But yeah, the stereotype of hearing aids, I think, has gone away in the mainstream now. There are concerns about pricing and concerns about how will it make me look. But there are so many different options in the market today. But that being cut off from your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, being able to pick up the phone and have a chat. If you have to turn up the TV to 40 or 50, whatever the highest number on the dial is,
85, Anthony.
85. All of those things really combine to cut us off.
That's
And
right.
that's what we're talking about, being cut off from our communities here. And so I'm so glad you brought up hearing as one of those important factors.
Isabel, next. And okay, the importance of tapping into your spirituality. We know studies have proven that people that have some kind of religious affiliation that live longer than others. And we also know that you don't have to go to church to get this benefit. You could practice things like yoga or meditation, or again, go out in nature. One of the things I do every year is go up north fly fishing, way, way up north where nothing works. Your computers don't work, TVs, radios, nothing. And when I'm sitting on that river, and I feel like I'm closer to the universe, to God. Like it's just unbelievable. And that's where you calm down and you get to do your deep thinking about things. And, it gives you this real good feeling and it takes the stress away. And that's where we can get from these avenues. And then these things have been proven to, again, drive longevity by up to 7 years. It's so important to find your form of spirituality and exercise it because it will pay often great dividends.
And unlike, going to the gym or joining a club, this one's really individualistic.
That's
But
right.
but depending what any side of the spiritual spectrum that you may be attracted to, or what the traditions that you grew up in, finding something has so many proven positive effects that it's certainly worth looking into if you're not already there. And if you are already there, digging deeper into it, because you may be thinking it's just a once a week type of commitment, but it really does have these positive effects that we've seen through so many studies.
Yep. Next one, Isabel. Here's another important thing is achieving financial security in retirement. Basically, my opinion is if you don't have financial security, you shouldn't retire. You should keep working to generate some cash flow because you want to maintain a certain level of retirement lifestyle that will make you happy. And you also want to have a margin of safety against the unexpected. So, unexpected examples are inflation, the Trump tariffs, rising prices, unexpected problem, maybe you need to replace a car or a roof or things like that. And so it's important to think about this all the time, maintain some level of flexibility, know how you can generate extra cash through whatever source. You could be through renting a room to someone, making some extra cash that way, or taking out a reverse mortgage or even working part-time. But you always have to be cognizant of it, be aware of it, know what your options are, and make sure you don't get put into a corner, right?
Yeah, financial security is like the number one pillar in CARP's advocacy. We talk about financial security, improved access to healthcare, and freedom from ageism or age discrimination. And depending on the economy, how it's going, if things are going pretty well across the board, healthcare is the number one issue for our members. As soon as the economy flips, financial security goes to the top. And when we've polled our members asking what their biggest fears are, outliving their money is their biggest fear. And it's
Good
not
point.
because they want to be well off, living the high life. It's because they don't want to be a burden on society or on their family. So that's why we're advocating for improvements to the GIS for the lowest income seniors, for increases to old age security because it hasn't kept up with inflation. And the basket of goods that older adults spend are certainly not are inflating faster than the rest of the economy. So, financial security, how you've set yourself up now and what we can do to increase that security in the future, that's CARP and our members working together with government. But an idea like if you are a homeowner looking at those reverse mortgage options or continuing to do part-time work, so important, Mike. I just wanted to throw our CARP advocacy point of view in there and encourage everyone tuning in today to really help support our advocacy for financial security because the government does have a role to play in that as well.
Oh yeah, it's very important. And here's the catch 22. I'm trying to show you how to live longer, and to live longer costs money. And so you always have to be cognizant of that, right?
Right.
So, it's such an important thing. Next one, Isabella. And here it is, consider working part-time. I'm a big fan of working part-time in retirement, provided you enjoy doing the work that you pick or you create it. And I'm starting work on a new book about late bloomers, people that instead of retiring from like a corporate job, they go on and do something else that they always wanted to do. And I was thinking, how can you finance it? Because the banks, if you're an older person going to the bank and you say you want to start a new business, well, it's going to be a no. And you might not be able to get like a regular mortgage or something because you don't have income coming in, so it's a no again. And I thought, well, geez, one of the easiest way would be to get a reverse mortgage if you have, equity in your home. The bank can't say no to that if you're putting your own cash in the deal. And to either maybe buy a franchise, start up a business, buy an existing business, generate retirement cash flow, and use that to, pay off maybe the monthly interest on the mortgage so it doesn't accrue so quickly and provide you some additional income going forward. And I know, the way I look at it too, I like the work I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I can. And that will mitigate the risk of me running out of money going forward, no matter how long I live. So these are things we have to be cognizant of. We have to keep rebalancing on an annual basis and come up with workable solutions. And everyone's different, right?
Well,
Next,
I'll add in again, Mike, just on the older adults returning to the workforce, lots of quiet ageism going on in that department. One of
for
the things
sure.
that CARP is trying to change the societal views about. We know that older adults bring so much skills and experience to the workplace. And again, this is back to the best way to keep going is to keep going. Uh, when retirement used to be considered sort of stepping away from the workforce and putting your newspaper on your rocking chair, but we're not aging the same way as our parents or our grandparents did, right? It's completely different, and working part time right up until the end is something that many people do.
Yeah, hey, you know what? It's if you're doing the right work and you like doing it, why would you retire? Why not? Why not just find a good balance between leisure and work and just enjoy yourself for many, many years? So it's something that has to be rethought and talked about. And that's why I write my books. Next one, Isabel. And having purpose. Everyone needs a good reason to get out of bed in the morning. Everyone needs a reason to live, right? And that's why you have to find purpose. And we know that people have a strong sense of purpose will live longer than others, right? And here's a perfect example here, Keith Richards. This guy should have died years ago based on the lifestyle that he lived, but he's still going strong in his 80s. Why? Because his purpose is his passion. He loves playing the guitar. He loves playing with the Rolling Stones. So that meets his relationship requirement. And then he loves playing in front of a crowd, and it puts him in a state of flow. He has a strong sense of purpose coming in. And I think that's what really keeps him alive. And I fear for him when he can't play anymore because I think everything might come tumbling down. So, those are things that, we focus on. You got to find a good source of purpose, and you'll find multiple ways of doing that in the book. Next one, Isabel. I know we're running late, so I'm trying to move it here. Okay, so that's it, and we can go to the next slide. You didn't have to take notes because you can get a free copy of the book. You just phone Home Equity Bank at this number, and they'd be glad to send you a copy. And I just want to end off with giving you some news about something called the Rejuvenation Olympics. Now, there's this guy, Brian Johnson. He's 47 years old. He was a tech guy. He owned a large software company. He sold it for millions and millions of dollars. And then when he left that behind, he said, you know what? I want to focus on longevity, and I want to, find good longevity hacks. I want to break the longevity record. So what he does is he spends $2 million a year on, longevity hacks. He has a team of 30 doctors. He takes 100 supplements daily, eats mostly vegetables and lentils, and he does like a regular blood plasma transfusion with his son. So he gets his young blood into his body. He's like a modern day vampire, right? And because of all these things he's done, he has reversed his biological age by 20 years. And he slowed down the rate that he ages at so every year, every 12 months, he only ages 8 months. And it's proven. They do the testing and everything. And, he was so proud of it. He said, I'm going to create this Olympics. I'm going to invite other people that have their own longevity hacks and see how they perform, because I think I'm going to beat them all because I got the best support and I'm spending the most money. So along comes this lady, Julie Clark. She's 56. Julie spends $107 monthly on her longevity supplements and hacks. 27 of that goes to her monthly gym membership. The rest is to like omega-3 pills and things like that. In the morning she meditates and she reads her Bible, calms down the stress and whatnot. Every day she goes to the gym and exercises, does weights and a little bit of cardio. She has, a vegetable high in vegetables. She really manages her stress. So, she does those things like, the Bible reading, maintaining strong relationships with her friends and family. She sleeps properly. She properly hydrates. She doesn't drink. And the exciting thing is everyone can do what she does. And so this is how she compares against Brian. She reversed her biological age by 20 years. And she's also slowed the rate of aging to 8 months a year, almost identical to him. Like they're running neck and neck. But she did it by just doing these basic things we talked about today. So they do work. We know they work. But yes, you actually have to go out there and take action and do them. You have to get to the gym. You have to eat properly. You have to practice proper stress management. You have to have financial stability and all these things. But the proof is in the pudding. They work. And that's what I wanted to leave you with.
Thanks, Mike. I will encourage everyone to take down that number. You can call it now or at your leisure, but the toll-free number will get you in touch with someone who will get your details and send you Mike's book. Thanks, Mike, for doing this today. Thanks for sharing this book with us. Now, I got a number of questions that have been coming through, and the first one I noted was about pets. So I thought if someone had a pet, that a number of those check boxes might come naturally. What do you think about pet ownership for helping someone to increase their longevity and achieve a number of those 9 principles?
So here's a true story. When my father passed away, the next day, a cat showed up at her door and she took him in. She couldn't find the owner. And I really believe that pet helped keep her alive because it gave her purpose. She had to take care of the pet. She had to food the pet. And then the pet made her feel good because the cat would follow her everywhere around. It gave her companionship at home, gave her a reason to get up in the morning again, gave her purpose because she had to take care of the cat and the cat took care of her. And so, yeah, that's pets are a big longevity driver. And the beautiful thing is I'm a dog lover. You come home after a rough day, no matter how rough that it was, you walk into that door, and on the other side of that door is going to be that dog, and that tail is going to be wagging like crazy. And all of a sudden, the stress just kind of falls off. You forget about all your problems, and you're patting and playing with that dog. So yeah,
And yeah, that
that's it.
dog gets you off the couch. It gets you walking around
Oh
the
yeah,
community.
you
You're
gotta walk
talking
them.
you're talking to your other neighbors. Or the next question came from Helen, and she says that according to the WHO, ageism, one of two persons in the world is ageist. So it's an epidemic according to Helen at least, and she says it really needs to be addressed if older adults need to work longer. And I have some good news before I hand it over to back to Mike, that the Canadian economy will actually demand that older people remain in the workforce longer so that our productivity can keep up with the standards that we need. So in smaller communities, in rural communities, and in big cities across the country, the demand for older adult workers will continue to increase because we haven't kept up with uh, our mortality rates in the country, and we need to have workers to provide the goods and services in our community. So, back to you on that, Mike. What about the ageism that these our audience members may face when they're looking for that part-time work?
Well, ageism is a fact. I experienced it, and I said, I'm not going to put up with this. And that's why I created my own work. And it worked out for me, but I didn't want to go through it. I know recently in the States, um, there's a program for, people use, a lot of companies use this provider to screen job applicants. And they put in the algorithm, so they would exclude older people. And it was automatic. And, people found out now there's a class action happening there. But it's just crazy. Yeah, it's there, it exists. But I agree with you. Smart companies are catching on saying, some of our best employees are the older employees. They've been battle tested, they know what to do. Maybe we have to upgrade their computer skills a little bit, but they'll be our best employees. And guess what? They want to come into work every day. They want to be here, unlike some other people, right? And when I was a hiring manager in the bank, I loved hiring older workers because I knew they could do the job right away. I knew they're solid, right? And again, they wanted to be there. I'd hire them all day long. So I don't understand that disconnect, but I know it's changing, but it's still there right now and it needs work on. And yeah, Anthony, that's part of the work you do is to change these things, right?
there's been great conversation going on in the chat because as our members have been asking questions, other members have been answering them. So someone was asking about what is a brain game, and then another member listed all the types of brain games that they like to do. Someone talked about getting involved with a Probus club, and other people talked about, well, what about the Lions, and what about Aquafit, and what about daily walking? All of those conversations have been going on in the chat right now. I'm so glad that you've stimulated those conversations, Mike.
Well,
I
we
think
created a new tribe, Anthony.
well, I think you, the retirement rebel, have given us lots of things to consider and real things to take action on. The book is available, as we said. It's free to anyone, no obligation, nothing like that. Uh, Home Equity Bank would love for you to have a copy, so please do call and request a copy. The toll free number is on your screen there. It's 855-207-4191. Thank you very much to Mike. Thank you to our partners at Home Equity Bank for connecting us with Mike. And thank you for your time this afternoon. I learned a lot. I will be at the gym tomorrow morning, Mike, for sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that Ironman, but I'll get out to the gym and encourage everyone. Uh, the the thing in CARP's 5 priorities, we always add another one. And we while we're asking the government for increases and we're asking government for policy changes, we have to remind ourselves that the thing that we can do ourselves are all these things that Mike has talked about. And the more of us who do more to help ourselves, there'll be less lineups in the ERs, there'll be less lineups for doctors. So we have a duty to ourselves to, as Mike says, invest in our future selves. And I think we've learned a lot from those lessons you provided today. So thank you very much to Mike Drak. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. I'm Anthony Quinn, Chief Operating Officer at CARP, signing off now and invite you back to our next webinar. Stay tuned for your next invitation. Thanks, Mike.
My pleasure, Anthony.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.